YouTube and fellow reefers, what's going on? Dan here with Electric Reef. So today I'm going to switch things up a little bit, and I'm not going to talk about the tank per se, everything that's going on with that. That's usually what consumes most of my videos. So I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to go over my personal top 5 lessons learned for a beginner reefer. It might be just coming into this hobby. These are all things that my top 5 list of things I've learned over the past 7 months on what I think would help a beginner reefer really get the foot in the door and be successful at this hobby. So without further ado, you guys can watch the tank. The T5 should be coming on here soon, and I'm going to start going down my list. So definitely my number 1 tip for this hobby is do your research, do your homework, and prepare yourself for what you're going to be dealing with. I know a lot of people that have just jumped into the hobby and have been successful in it, and they've learned a lot in a quick period of time, and I know other people that just jumped into it and they're just dealing with problem after problem after problem after problem. And it's because they did not do their homework, they didn't do their research, and they're just weren't prepared for what's required to actually keep a reef tank. In all actuality, I think keeping a reef tank's pretty easy, but that's because I went into it knowing a decent amount of information that would get a beginner or hobbyist going strong and being successful. There's a lot of available resources out there. You got a lot of forums, which I'd say be careful with. There's a lot of good information in there, and then there's also a lot of information that I think could take your tank southbound and not really get you where you need to be. So the forums, use forums with caution. There's just a lot of other good places to go, like YouTube. That's where I got a lot of my information starting out in this hobby. Some great resources on YouTube would be Rico's Reef Tank. I mean, he does his live chat 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and you can get on there and just rapid fire questions, and usually you get the answer you need to move forward and deal with the problems that you're currently working with on your tank. Another thing too, when it comes to preparation, how big of a tank do you want? What is your desire? Is your desire just a little 5-gallon nano tank or pico tank or pico reef? Is that all you want? Is that all you're looking for? That's would definitely be a good tank to do a lot of research before starting. My first tank was a 5-gallon Fluval spec aquarium, and it was a successful tank for about 8 months until I ended up having to get rid of it. But I wanted bigger. I always want bigger. Got my 65-gallon, and now 7 months into this, I'm already planning out my next build, which is going to be almost quadruple the size of this tank. So it's kind of look at everything before you just go out and buy a tank and spend your money on all this equipment it's going to cost, all the money it's going to cost to just get this setup running. You could save that money or start buying equipment for the tank size you know you're going to want, but you also have to look at things like, okay, do I really need this piece of equipment? Do I need this piece of equipment? So that kind of leads me into my number 2 for lessons learned for the beginner reefer. Equipment list and selection. Now, when I first started out, I'm like, okay, well, I can use this skimmer, I can use these reactors, I can use this, I can use that. I'm just like I can use all this stuff. I'm gonna need it in the reef tank. Honestly, I think the reactors were a waste of my money because I only run carbon once a week now, and I only run it for 24 hours. And I started off running Phosguard in the other reactor, and I no longer use Phosguard because the system's capable of managing phosphates on its own. So do I need a reactor? No. Do I have them? Yes. So I have them in case I need them, but I don't think you really need it. So that's the equipment list and selection. Really go through your list, write down a list and fine tune it to exactly what you think your system needs. If you have disposable income, go ahead, throw all your money at the tank. That's all on you. I'm just saying, if you're like me and You got to be kind of a budget conscious reefer. Don't go out and just buy this piece of equipment because you read in a forum that so-and-so's tank was doing awesome with it. Your tank might not do awesome with it, might not help your tank. So just kind of be conscious of your purchases and what you're spending your money on. Is it going to benefit you in the long run, or are you going to use it in the long run? Another thing would be like the skimmer. I started out with a little hang on the back Reef octopus skimmer, and it did great, but I was having crazy nitrate and phosphate problems right off the bat. I upgraded to my 110 space saving Reef octopus skimmer, and the tank's doing awesome now. It's clean as can be. This is the skimmer I should have went with right off the bat, but I wasted my money on a smaller skimmer. And general rule of thumb, I'd say if a skimmer's rated for 200 gallons, consider it rated for about 150 gallons once you have the tank fully stocked. So if you plan on upgrading in the future, fine, go with the smaller equipment, but as long as you stick to your plan of upgrading, you shouldn't have any problems. Number 3 on my top 5 lessons learned in the Reef tank for a beginner is consistency, consistency, consistency. For the past 6 months, my tank's been doing good. I've had my problems here and there, I've dealt with them, and I think my tank has come a long way from where I started. And the biggest problem I would say I've had is my consistency. I've switched up my intervals between water changes. I've switched up what I was dosing, switched up where I was keeping my parameters at. I took this out and put that in. I was just all over the place. And it's been about 3 weeks since I've touched anything, played with anything on the tank. Everything's just been running, and my growth on all my corals has just been going insane. So I mean, that's gonna tie into my number 5, but I mean, guys, come on, keep your water changes and your levels consistent. If you do a water change every 2 weeks, keep doing it every 2 weeks. Make this little ecosystem as consistent as possible. Keep your salinity at a certain salinity. I mean, every once in a while you're going to have to change something to cure a problem. If you're running straight consistency in your tank and you encounter a problem and you have to change some of your parameters or start dosing this or take away that, I mean, do it gradually. Don't do it fast, because nothing good happens fast in this hobby. Everything good happens slow. Now, everything bad happens fast. That's just the way it goes. So only change something if you're battling a problem, and stay consistent in making the problem worse and not helping. So keep it consistent. Consistency, consistency, consistency. And I promise you, you will see success. It's, like I said, I've kept everything consistent for the past about 3 weeks. My corals are growing now, my fish are happier, just everything just seems to be starting to take care of itself, to the point where I only have to do water changes and feed and do minor stuff like cleaning out the skimmer and topping off my alkalinity and calcium jugs. That's it. It's pretty much as simple as that at this point. Number 4 on my list, do not impulse buy. You go to the store and they got 20% off a fish, and you're like, oh, that fish looks cool, I'm gonna throw it in my tank. Don't impulse buy. It was one of the worst decisions I ever made. I went to the LFS, they had a fish on sale, and it was a fish I've wanted for a while, but I did not do my research. I impulse bought the fish, and 3 days later, it was dead. I took it out of the tank, oh, there goes the T5. Took it out of the tank, went to the LFS, traded it for another fish. Got the fish home, he was good for a week, and then he started ripping up my clownfish. So if you watched my last 6-month update video, you know the whole story behind that. Those were all impulse buys. So I said the number 2 kind of ties into number 4. Same goes for equipment. Oh, this piece of equipment's on sale. Don't impulse buy. How is this piece of equipment going to make your tank better? Is it going to meet or exceed your expectations of what you're aiming to achieve? Or is it just another $100-something piece of equipment you're going to throw on here, think it's going to work miracles, and then you're going to be like, crap, I'm out $100-something, or however much you spend on it. Don't impulse buy. Really sit down, map everything out, and everything will come together. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Nothing good happens fast in this hobby. When you go out and impulse buy something, you're just throwing money down the drain, you're adding stuff that you might not actually need. So just keep it simple, guys. I gotta say, I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure every other reefer at one point or another has been guilty of it. Impulse buying. It just happens. Heat of the moment, you're there, everything seems perfect, and then next thing you know, you got a shelf downstairs full of equipment that you're not using anymore because you impulse bought. I have to say, this goes right along with my consistency, number 3. Number 5, keep your damn hands out of the tank. Keep them out of the tank as much as you can. I understand you got to go in every once in a while to fish out a dead snail, or fix a piece of rock that moved on you, or a piece of coral that maybe came unglued from the rock structure. Those things are all necessities. They have to be done. And I even get in here with my fingers just to feed the pellet food to my clownfish and all the other fish. But other than that, guys, my hands have not been in this tank other than feeding for the past 4 weeks, at least. I redid my rock structure, did my last update video, and since then, my hands have not been in the tank. It's as simple as that. Keep your hands out of the tank. You have a piece of the ocean that you stuck in this little box in your living room or wherever you put it in your house. And this little ecosystem is learning how to take care of itself, how to fight off problems, fight off diseases, algae problems. Those things can be assisted with our help, but the more we stick our hands in the tank, the more we can introduce things that could cause more problems. And at the end of the day, none of us want more problems in our tank. I've kept my hands out of my tank, and I've kept my consistency, and I've yet to see this much growth in the past 6 months as I have in just the past couple weeks. So I'm telling you guys, everything's going really good right now, and if you take anything away from this, let it be these 5 things. If you're a beginner in the hobby, start off practicing these 5 things, and I guarantee you it will lead to some sort of success, whether it be growing out coral or just having a fish only with live rock tank and your fish surviving and whatnot. So, alright guys, that's it. Done talking your ear off now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and for any new beginner reefers out there, if you have any questions, ask away. I really encourage everybody to get on the live feeds with Rico and Rico's Reef Tank, and also Paul Blaney does a live feed here and there. I was on there earlier today on my lunch break, and just a bunch of questions were being asked, and these guys really do their best to get in there, try and answer the question, and pretty much get everybody on the same page. So I think these live feeds are invaluable. It's a bunch of knowledge. You can talk face to face with the people, get the answers you need. They can see your tank, you can see theirs, and it's just, there's always a new discussion going on about the reefing hobby. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, got something out of it. Electric Reef out.